Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2024. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with hybrid hexagon twists. On day 20 of Advent of Tess, we are folding a pattern called Wandering Compasses. And this is one of my own designs. We're going to start with that same closed hexagon and closed triangles going around in the center with diamond hybrid hexagon twists on the opposite side instead of rectangle ones like yesterday. And if you want to see the crease pattern for this, that crease pattern is drawn from the side with the hybrid hexagon twist. And by the way, we're using a 24-fold triangle grid on a hexagon. To get the instructions for the grid and the crease pattern, make sure that you're signed up for email reminders at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent. And one of the things we'll see later on is there's multiple different orientations that you could have for this outer hybrid hexagon twist that looks like a diamond. And all three of those orientations around the same center are in the ebook for this year's Advent of Tess, which you can get at gatheringfolds.com. So let's dive into folding. I'm going to start by marking my center point and label that side A. And I'm going to fold a closed hexagon twist on this side. So my mountain folds are going straight out to the corners of the paper. I'm working on my right hand side. Those valley folds are going to be one spacing above my mountain folds, and I'm letting this pleat come in almost into the center, but definitely not continuing past the center. And I'll hold both of those folds together as I pass the pleat off to my left hand, then form the next pleat. Again, get both the mountain and the valley, hold those firm with my left hand as I make the next pleat. And here I might need to lift up some of this area in here so I can set up my remaining pleats all exactly the same with respect to the center as our first pleat, exactly the same with respect to the corners of the paper. And then we can start bringing these pleats flatter and flatter as they're coming into the center, and we're going to have this little tower. Now I could go ahead and try and keep making them flatter and flatter as they go in, but I've noticed that tends to lead to crumpling and not getting the twist all the way around. So what I do instead is bop the top slightly, grab on three sides while I'm bopping the top, and squeeze slightly as I do a sharp twist around. And this is going to look ugly unless you're very lucky when it first comes down, but we just want to gently encourage our folds to go back onto the grid lines. And then we get our nice solid closed hexagon twist, and we can double check on the back that we've got this tiny pinprick of a hole where these folds aren't overlapping each other at all, and there's no gaps. And if there are gaps, we can go in with the bone folder and smooth out the valley folds that weren't quite on grid lines and get that into position. So from here, got all my pleats smoothed out, and it's time to fold my next for today, my first closed triangle twist. And I'm going to use tube pleat spacing, which means that my valley fold is going to be one space out from the folded mountain, pick any of them. They're all going to get the same thing done. And then my mountain is one spacing further, and I call it a tube because when this is folded, you can look at the end and see that is coming together and forming a tube structure. And this is going to be a closed triangle twist. So our target grid intersection is where the existing mountain coming from the central twist and this new mountain are coming together. And I'll erase the rest of the existing pleat past that intersection to put in the third direction of mountain fold. And I'll use the way that these two pleats are laying down to see which side the valley needs to be on to create a closed triangle twist. And now, since my next twist, the hybrid hexagon twist, is going to be on the opposite side of the paper, I'm going to work my way around clockwise, taking the pleat at the bottom of the tube as my next pleat leading into a triangle to fold. So I'm going to have tube pleat spacing relative to the next pleat around the hexagon. And that's valley one spacing from the folded mountain. On the crease pattern, you'll see that is 2 spaces from the next valley and 1 space further for the mountain fold. As I set up the new tube pleat, I'm opening just the bottom pleat of the old tube, leaving the pleat coming from the triangle in place, erasing that existing pleat coming from the hexagon, and putting in a third grid direction for this closed triangle twist, and this will create a pleat overlap, which we already have ordered based on the order that we folded these triangles in the way that will be easiest to open on the other side of the paper. So now I'm going to repeat. I'm going to orient my tube so I can work on the bottom pleat of the tube. I'll set up a new tube pleat down below, lift up, erasing the extension of the pleat from the hexagon and causing a pleat overlap. So keeping the pleat from the previous triangle fully folded, causing a pleat overlap as I set up and squash my new closed triangle twist. Then I'll rotate and repeat, setting up the tube pleat, opening the pleat from the hexagon as it goes past my target grid intersection, and putting in the third direction of pleat, causing a pleat overlap with the triangle, a pleat from the triangle twist that we just made, and squash. Once more, repeat exactly the same, setting up the closed triangle twist and squashing, creating one new pleat overlap. And we can double check our spacing here. Our spacing is correct when these triangle corners are all in contact with each other. Now for my 6th one, like we saw yesterday, we're going to do something ever so slightly different, which is to create a compound wrap at this intersection of pleats down below the twist. So we're going to have our valley, which is 1 space out from this pleat coming out of the hexagon, our mountain 1 space further, and as these make contact with the pleat down below, they're going to override the pleat below and bounce. So it's not that they're continuing on straight. We could do that and have a reordered pleat overlap, but when we let them bounce over, so instead of being here and here, they've shifted 1 grid spacing. So our valley is coming down and around, meeting the valley underneath. And our mountain is following in a zigzag. Then we can close that back up, but it's not going to want to fully close until we get the third pleat in and finish setting up our closed triangle twist up here. So with that in place, and we're going to keep the pleat overlap like normal above the twist. With that in place, we can squash this 6th closed triangle twist. And I'm going to grab my compound wrap and flip over to the other side of the paper. So I'll go ahead and label this B so you can follow my orientations as we're working. And I'm going to go ahead and do some extra drawing of that's the compound wrap. So I want to work in this area that's been freed up. I have lots of space in here next to the compound wrap. So I'm working on one of the regular overlaps, but the one further clockwise around from the compound wrap, not the one counterclockwise, because between these pleats I have 4 grid spacings, and between these I have 6. So that's why we're working in this area. So for this twist, we want to first open up our overlap so we can see where these mountain folds are coming together. And then what I'm doing is taking a look at the crease pattern, which again, you can see if you go to training.gatheringfolds.com/advent and sign up for those email reminders. And I'm noticing that I'm holding this so I have one horizontal pleat and one pleat coming down from the upper left. I'm noticing that as those pleats feed into the hybrid hexagon twist, this horizontal one is going straight in to the center. And on the crease pattern, it goes dotted once it crosses really this line, but for our purposes, let's look at where it crosses the other line. So we've got this fold coming in. As we hit the mountain fold coming in this direction, we're looking for our center. So our pleat coming from the upper left is an open type pleat. Our pleat coming horizontally from the left is a closed type pleat. So our center is going to be one past the open pleat, the open mountain, on the closed mountain. And then for this particular hybrid hexagon twist, we're going to have 4 closed type pleats and 2 open type pleats. So these are my 4 directions of closed type pleats. These are my 2 directions of open type pleats. I can go ahead and set up the next closed type pleat in here. And also on the other side. And this guy, it's a very similar situation to yesterday's pattern where we have these 2 little pinchy bits right at the edge where the mountain's going only 1 grid spacing outside of the twist. And as we're laying this down, there's these 2 other edges that become mountain folds as we're getting this twist into place. And by the way, I do have a couple tutorials that teach this twist specifically. So if you're looking for more specific guidance on this hybrid hexagon twist, the twofold diamond hybrid hexagon twist, you can find some other tutorials on my YouTube channel, and those links should be next to this tutorial if you've already signed up for the email reminders. So we've got this twist, and some of the bits underneath are the little pockets that we saw with the rectangle hybrid hexagon twist yesterday. But some of them are these straight kind of posts. So those little pockets will resolve in the same way as yesterday by using the bone folder or our fingers to let there be a horizontal fold through the pocket. And that leaves these little posts, which will let the pleat feeding into it continue straight as long as possible, and then it'll double back and create a new little crease halfway through a grid triangle in there. And all of these new creases we're able to put in directly on the grid. Very convenient. And all of the new creases actually form the outline of an open hexagon. So that's a cool thing to know about this pattern. So next up, I'm going to rotate, so I'm working around clockwise to the next pleat overlap, and I've got an additional pleat coming from my previous hybrid hexagon. And then I'm going to open the pleat overlap, basically so I can see it as an X. I've got one pleat horizontal and then one pleat coming in above that. And like before, my pleat coming in from above is going to be the open type pleat. And the pleat coming horizontal is going to be my closed type pleat. And therefore, the center is going to be one space past the open type pleat mountain on the closed pleat mountain. And we're going to have 4 of these closed pleats and a second open pleat. So we have one pleat closed this way, one pleat closed this way, and this second closed type pleat is going to effectively look like it's feeding into a closed hexagon twist. It's just these 2 open pleats that are causing a difference between a theoretical closed hexagon, notice my mountains over there, and this hybrid hexagon twist. Now, we do have that extra pleat to deal with from our previous hybrid hexagon, and this time the next triangle twist is going to be on the A side of the paper. So I've got my closed mountain marked. So it's this mountain coming into the center of my hybrid hexagon. My valley is going to be to the left of that mountain. And I'm going to open this pleat coming from the previous hybrid hexagon and pop down so the valley can pass through and form a triangle wrap. So I've got my three-way intersection of valley folds underneath there, three-way intersection of mountain folds up above, and I can get that secure and stable while I'm putting in the rest of these pleats. And then I can get everything situated with my hybrid hexagon. One of the things I was doing under there is making sure that the valley was staying on grid lines, that I had that full pocket, that it wasn't kind of tucked up under or anything, because I need that full pocket in order to pop it and get that new horizontal crease in the middle. And then again, those pockets we're going to pop, and then these posts we're going to fold in half. And I'm specifically folding them in half in that orientation, letting the bottom follow along with the existing pleat instead of folding them back in another direction. So this would be turn, turn. We want to just have one turn. And in this situation, I'll come back for that triangle twist later on. One thing that I want to point out is that we're seeing the same things on opposite sides of this rhombus. That's the two-fold part of the two-fold diamond hybrid hexagon twist. And that means that this twist can be used as a position of two-fold rotational symmetry for the broader pattern. So whatever happens on this open pleat is going to be exactly the same as what happened on the open pleat on the opposite side. And given that the center is our position of six-fold rotational symmetry, if we choose to use this twist as a position of two-fold rotational symmetry for the broader pattern, then the triangle twist in here has to be a position of three-fold rotational symmetry, which means it has to be equal distances from both of these two twists. And the only triangle twist that solves that is the closed triangle twist on the opposite side of the paper for this orientation of the hybrid hexagon twists. For different orientations of the hybrid hexagons, you get different solutions. And you can see all three of the solutions for the three different orientations of this hybrid hexagon in the crease pattern ebook. So continuing on down, one of the things I can do is open up my pleat overlap, and this time I'll try and fold this twist without drawing. So I've got my open type pleat coming in over the top, my closed type pleat coming in horizontally. And so my center is going to be one spacing past the open type pleat on the closed pleat, and specifically the mountains of each of those pleats. And I will just drop a point on that center grid intersection there. And then I'm going to have another direction that is another closed type pleat. And it's going to go out the other side also as a closed type pleat, and it's going to run into this pleat up above, which we might be tempted to put in a three-way intersection of mountains. But what's really needed here to make the rest of the pattern easier is to pop the valley down and do a three-way intersection of valleys. So I can wrap, so you can wrap, and then find the remaining little bits of pleat. So this mountain that I'm pinching is exactly in line with our original closed type pleat, that mountain that's going through. And then this mountain is an edge of the rhombus parallel to the edge of the rhombus set up by our original open type pleat. And with those set up, we can go ahead and pop our little pillows, pockets, whatever we're calling them, and let our little posts crumple. I mean, more controlled than a crumple, but let them fold. And flatten our hybrid hexagon twist, our diamond hybrid hexagon. Continuing, we can repeat. And one of the cues that I want to bring up is we've seen this 2 spaces of gap between our pleat going into the triangle wrap and the next pleat over. We can use that to our advantage and say, okay, there's going to be 2 spaces showing. Then the third one is my valley fold. I can go ahead and set up that valley, set up that wrap before I even open my pleat overlap. Then when I do open the pleat overlap, I can say this mountain coming in and this one on the underside, those are 2 closed type pleats. They're going into the center. This one coming from the top, it's going to continue as a mountain out the other side. The valley is going to switch sides of the mountain. In this direction, that mountain is continuing out the other side. In this direction, we're jumping over 2 spaces to continue on out. And if this is a little fast, feel free to rewind to the previous hybrid hexagon twists that are in exactly the same situation also. And again, in here, this little pillow needed a little tug to get it fully situated. So I can flatten all the pillows and then flatten the pillars. Which, interesting word choices on my end, because pillows with the southern accent sounds remarkably like pillars. And now y'all are all thinking of southern accents. I've got one more intersection where we're going to do this exactly the same way. I'm going to choose to start with my triangle wrap, and the valley fold for that is going to be 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 2 showing, 1 hidden, from the next mountain fold over. Then I can wrap that around and open up, making sure, so this one, when I opened up, it had this little dimple. I want to make sure to pop that out so I can see the top of my diamond here. Got this mountain fold coming in. I can go ahead and pop that out for that little pillow. That mountain fold's coming into the center. This mountain fold's coming into the center. I'm going to send the mountain from the triangle wrap on down below. The mountain from my lower pleat on out the other side. And then we're finishing up forming the diamond with this open type pleat from the left side, jumping over to the opposite side of the center and continuing out the other side. And then we can kind of settle our diamond hybrid hexagon twist and pop those pillows and let those pillars bend in half and fold flat. And then rotate once more, and now we're back to our compound wrap. So the compound wrap, I'm actually going to recommend opening that compound first. So you might notice this kind of wants to be a rhombus twist, but we're not going to let it. And then setting up the triangle wrap up above, so that's 1, 2, 3 spaces over from this existing mountain fold. That's going to be our valley fold, which means our mountain is following one spacing even further away. And we'll pop down the pleat from the previous hybrid hexagon so that our valley can extend through, meet the valley down below, and head off to the edge of the paper. And our mountain will follow all of that one grid spacing away and wrap. And now we've got 1, 2, 3 pleats coming into here. I've got these 2 pleats, the outermost pleats, are coming straight in to the center. I'm going to continue that mountain from the wrap above down out the other side, and it's going to run into another pleat, which I'm going to, so it's running under the other pleat, and so I'll erase the extension of the second pleat and have that wrap around. This is the easier of the orders of pleats to fold the triangle wrap. And then we've got the extension of this horizontal pleat coming out the other side. And we've got our open type pleat jumping a grid spacing to the opposite side of the center and continuing out in that direction. And we can get everything to nestle down and around. We want to double check that our pockets are nice and puffy, and then we can press in the center of the pocket to get them to buckle and close. And then these pillars likewise will fold in half. And this can be done down on the table as well, but you can also hold the paper in your hands while you get those bits in place. So we've seen how we fold these hybrid hexagon twists, but we haven't seen what the other side of them looks like yet. When we flip over, we'll see 4 pleats going to a closed hole, like a closed hexagon twist. And then on our paper, we don't quite see the second open type pleat because that's hidden and runs into the edge of the paper before it comes out. But we'll see this pleat in here that's also going into that same hybrid hexagon twist. Now that we're back on the A side, we can take these triangle wraps that we set up from the B side and squash them into closed triangle twists. And you'll notice when you do that, you've got 2 grid spacings from the closed hole to the corner on both sides of this closed triangle twist. And one of the things that you might notice, and we're going to go ahead and squash all of our triangle wraps. One of the things you might notice about this pattern is there's a lot of space in it. So you might be thinking, well, I wonder if I could put everything closer together and then see a little bit more of the pattern. And that is actually possible. And it's one of the crease patterns in the Advent of Tess 2024 ebook that you can find at gatheringfolds.com. And that's also available through Origami USA and Origami Shop. So here we have our Wandering Compasses pattern. And yeah, so much to explore. I believe this is actually our only day using these diamond hybrid hexagon twists. But the preparation that we learned in this that'll be useful specifically on day 25 is that these corners with the posts get laid over like that. That, and there's just so many cool ways to continue this pattern. You can do all three of the different orientations of the hybrid hexagon twists and get cool different patterns each time. And speaking of other patterns, so that's all for today. Tomorrow's pattern will be a return to the rectangle hybrid hexagon twist around a open hexagon and open triangles. So we're going to start increasing the density that we're using these twists in, and get ready to get some flagstone-y bits by the end. So happy folding, everyone. And don't forget to, when you post to Instagram or Facebook or on the Discord server, tag me at Gathering Folds in those public channels, public, social media things, at Gathering Folds, and use hashtag Advent of Tess or Advent of Tess 24 to tell people where you learned to fold this. So happy folding, and see you in tomorrow's tutorial.